Hey guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk about something I actually picked up from a book, but I think it's a really interesting idea, and I feel like it ties back into a video I made a few weeks ago. I believe it is Fall in Love with a Journey, right? And in that video I kind of talked about being in the moment and not focusing on all these dreams and goals and ambitions we have. We tend to daydream about the end goal, right? The result, achieving those things, and learning to appreciate the process of getting there. So today's video, I think, is something that can kind of help you in implementing that in your day-to-day. It's something I picked up from the book Atomic Habits. I might have mentioned it in a previous video. I'm not sure. I don't know where I put it. But it's a book by James Clear. It has a lot of interesting ideas I'm sure I will continue to talk about in coming videos. But something that a big focus of the book, obviously, is habits and how we go about maintaining them, right? We all have things that we want to do, and we end up falling off track, or we're only consistent for a short period of time. The year's coming to a close. I'm sure people will start to start coming up with those New Year's resolutions, but we've all seen we do it for the first month, first couple of weeks, and then eventually life gets in the way. So something really interesting that the author brings up is not necessarily the fact that we aren't your habits aren't the issue, right? But it's more so the way that you go about setting them, right? The process in which you're trying to achieve those goals, right? The mindset behind it. So something I thought was really interesting was the idea of like your goal isn't the result shouldn't be your goal, right? So if I want to lose weight, right? Usually most people, or if I want to go to the gym, or your goal in that is to lose weight, right? Or to put on muscle, or maybe I want to have nicer skin, or maybe I want to read more books. You know what I mean? When we're setting these things, are the thing that we're aiming for is the result, right? And the interesting thing is that when our focus is the thing that we're looking for is the reward, we're actually a lot less likely to achieve it, to be consistent with it. So why is that? An example that the author used that I thought was really interesting is cleaning your room, right? So if you're a very messy person, right? And your room is a mess. There's clothes everywhere. Your bed's not made. You might have trash in places. So let's say you wake up and your goal for the day is to clean your room. And by the end of the day, you achieve that goal. Your room is clean and you feel good. But then by the end of the week, it's right back where it was. So why does that happen? It happens because your goal was set in the wrong way, right? Your goal was to clean your room, but you didn't change what led to it being dirty in the first place. You didn't change the habits that made you a messy person, that made your room unclean in the first place, right? So instead of setting these goals by result, by reward, we had to set them by process. And so the goal in that case wouldn't be to clean your room, but would be to become a more tidy person, right? Would be to make the active effort to pick up after yourself, to put your clothes right in the dirty hamper when you're taking them off, to throw trash right away, to make your bed every morning, things like that. So when you start changing the process, when you start shifting your habits, then you've achieved your goal because your room is still clean. But now you don't have to clean it every week. Now it isn't, I cleaned it today and in 2 days it's going to be right back where it was, right? Because we've shifted our mindset from end result to process. And I think that's a really key difference. I think in more long-term examples, right? Because cleaning your room is a very short-term thing. But in the long term, right, back with the example of like working out or with taking care of your skin, if you want to have really clear skin. What you notice is when you're focused on, what my skin is going to look like. It's going to be dewy and glowing and all of this stuff, or I'm going to have this nice body, or I'm going to, lose all of this weight. When you're focused on that end goal, right, and you've been consistent, because with most things that are worth the effort, they're going to take a long time, right? And so even when you've been consistent for those weeks and even months at times, and you haven't seen noticeable results, we tend to be like, okay, well, what's the point, right? That's when you start to fall off track a little bit, or you start to lose motivation, you start to lose the drive you had before, because you've been doing it for so long and you still don't see any results. And so I think the important thing there is that the idea of shifting your mindset still very much applies, right? Instead of focusing on the body that you'll have or the way that your skin will look, or if you instead shift your focus to the process, right? What steps do you need to take today to get there, right? The end result should be a byproduct of your goal, right? So back to the cleaning your room example, your room being clean should be a byproduct of your actual goal, which is just to be a more tidy person, right? Losing weight should be a byproduct of you wanting to be a consistent exerciser, someone that takes care of their body. Having clear skin should be a byproduct of your goal, which is to wash your face every day. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So focusing on the process. Your goal is not the end result. It is the steps that you take to get there. And the reward that you get at the end of that, it should be a byproduct. It should be an outcome of what your goal is. And your goal is that process. So how does focusing on that process help you in those situations where, in the long-term examples where you do kind of lose motivation after doing it for so long? I think what you find is that when you're not focused on, when your goal isn't the reward, and it's simply the process, when your goal is, I'm going to wash my face every day, I'm going to moisturize my face every day, then when you've done it for 6 months, and 6 months is crazy, you probably see results by then, but when you've done it for a month, 2 months, and you haven't seen crazy results, you aren't demotivated, I guess, if that's a word, because that your goal isn't to get some reward, right? It's just to be consistent with the process. It's to be the kind of person that takes care of their skin, not to have nice skin, not to have glowing skin. And so in aligning yourself, your goal, your ambition with the process that will inevitably get you to the reward, to the result, you've now grounded yourself in the steps that it takes to get there, rather than the result, than the outcome of the work that it'll take. And I think it's something really that I'm trying to implement myself, and I think it's a helpful tool in kind of shifting your mindset, your perspective, and it can be really huge, because I think you are everything that we are. We're a culmination of our habits, right? Of our day-to-day, right? And so if you are someone that isn't the cleanest person, or you don't take care of your skin, or you don't wash your hair, or you don't exercise, or you don't do all of these things, and you can start to set goals in a way that allows you to be consistent with the processes, the work that gets you to be the person that you want to be. So something else that the author brings up, interesting idea that I think also helps to implement these things more. It gives you something to think about day to day. To practice when you're implementing this is to look for an identity that aligns with your goals, right? Look for, and I think sometimes what really helps is a key phrase. Like, if you want to work out, like, what would an athlete do? You know what I mean? Look, you're looking for the identity of the goal that you're setting, right? So if you're trying to, if you want to talk to more people, you want to make more friends, right? So we're switching our mindset from I want to have more friends into how can I talk to more people? What is the process that'll lead you there? And then we're going to walk it back even one more step further by like, what would an extrovert do, right? And so when you're in situations in which you have opportunities to align yourself with those goals, rather than focusing on the result, which would be having more friends, ask yourself, what would an extrovert do, right? What would someone who has a lot of friends do? And then work yourself into the process of that. Okay, so let me talk to more people. Let me go out more. Let me put myself in more social situations, rather than just setting the goal of, I want more friends, or I'm gonna talk to more people. Now you have actionable things, right? And then you also have a foundation to go back to. You're not just thinking, trying to figure out how you're going to do this thing. You have an identity that goal is tied to. And so in a way, it gives you a framework of how to achieve whatever goal you set. In the same vein, like if you want to read more books, right? And you're saying, oh, I want to read X amount of books, or I really want to finish this book, right? Then you never finish the fucking book. The shit sits on your desk or it sits on your bookshelf for a year and you forget about it. And so we want to work ourselves back to what would a reader do, right? You want to identify with as a reader. And so what would a reader do? Well, they would carry their book around with them. They'd keep a book in their bag. They'd read when they're on the train or when they're on the bus. They'd read in their free time. You know what I mean? They would pick books that they find interesting. They would set aside time. They might not spend as much time on their phone or playing video games or all of that stuff. So you're developing a framework. You don't just have a goal that is up in the air and you have no fucking clue how to get there, because you've just given yourself a result. You've given yourself a reward. I finished 30 books. I'm so smart. I gained so much knowledge, right? But how do you get there? You buy a bunch of fucking books, but you haven't changed any of your systems. You've never read books. You've never been a reader your whole life. I'm speaking from personal experience. Like, I hated reading growing up. And I only liked reading when it was on my own time. I loved books like I Want to Be a Kid and comic books and reading manga. But like, if I could find a way to cheat that book report, I was gonna find a way. And so it would be absurd for me to decide, oh, I want to read more books and just buy 20 books and expect me to start reading somehow. No, it's not. I have to start to identify with, what does it even mean to be a reader? What would a reader do? They wouldn't just buy more books. I have to start to shift my habits to align with the identity of a reader, right? And so I carry books with me everywhere. I always have a book on me. I read whenever I can. I spend a lot less time on my phone. I've set like screen limits so that when that notification pops up, hey, you got time? Damn, well, okay, I guess I should read my book. I read on my way to work. I read on my way back from work to school. All of this stuff. And that starts to develop a process, right? And so now I'm not really even focused on finishing books. I'm not focused on reading X amount of books. I just read when I can, you know. And now I can identify with the identity of a reader. Now I can call myself a reader. Now people at work call me a reader because they always see me with a book. And it isn't the fact that I set a goal to read more books that did that. It's the fact that I thought about, what would a reader do? What is the process of reading more books, right? What is the process of becoming a reader? And I think when you can really start to implement that in your own life, and you can start to come up with an identity for your goals, and then once you have that identity, think about the process in which you align yourself with that identity. You know, if you want to lose weight, or if you want to eat healthier, what would a fitness guru do? I don't really know the word for it. I don't want to say, I feel like gym rat is kind of a negative connotation. I guess you could just say athlete. What would an athlete do? you know, or what would a healthy person do, you know, when you, whatever it is. But I think it's a really helpful way in shifting your perspective, and I think if you implement it the right way, it can really be revolutionary. And so, yeah, I hope you guys can take something good from this video. It's something that I've implemented myself for sure in my life, and it's definitely helped me in starting to make progress in actually doing the things that I want to do, and rather than just thinking about them, and having actually actionable steps to take, right? And yeah, so I hope that helps. I hope that you guys can, you know, you can implement it in your day-to-day, and start shifting your perspective. So no more setting goals. Well, we're still gonna set goals, but we're gonna change the way that we set goals. We're not focusing on the reward anymore, the result. We're gonna focus on the process, and we're going to think about an identity that aligns with the goal that we want, right? The goal that we're setting. And I think you'll really start to see a change in the things that you do. So yeah, see you guys next week. Peace and love.